Hey everyone, and welcome to the Perfect Bite podcast, your fusion of food and entrepreneurship. You'll hear stories from chefs, restaurateurs, CPG brands, and more from the food and bev industry. All of them are at different points in their journeys, talking about their experiences and how they've cooked up something new. Let's dig in. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Perfect Bite podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Perkins. Today's guests are behind the tech that help your favorite restaurants run smoothly. Software is at the base of any job these days, and that includes the food and bev industry. Science on Call is just a message away to make sure you can focus on your food and your customers instead of tech failures in the moment. And they go way beyond sticking your device in rice. Please welcome Science on Call co-founders Luisa Castellanos and Andy Freivogel.
Hey, Sarah. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Hey, guys. I've missed you.
We miss you.
Likewise. When do you come back to Chicago?
I'll figure it out. Trust me. But you guys have to come visit in Columbus, too. So everyone, Luisa and Andy, I used to work out of the same co-working space for food tech startups in Chicago, and they always brightened my day, and they're working on something really, really cool. You guys are actually the first food tech guests on the Perfect Bite. So I'm excited for folks to hear something that's a little bit more behind the scenes and understand what exactly that you're doing to help make everyone's lives easier here.
So you want the dirt?
I want the real dirt.
I got dirt for you.
I'm so excited about that. This is going to be fun. Well, let's take it back here a little bit before Science on Call. When did you each first fall in love with food, and what were your favorite foods as a kid?
Ice cream. My very first job was in an ice cream shop. I will admit, ice cream's probably not my favorite food anymore, but, I've always had a sweet tooth, and my mom's always been a really good baker. And so being around sweets and cakes and cookies and all that stuff, just really loved going out for ice cream. It was just a really special treat. And so anywhere that I could go with my family to on a special occasion, it's probably what got me most excited about restaurants in general and the people working in the restaurants.
All right, Luisa, I have to. Sorry, Andy. And then we'll get into your amazing answer here as well. So, Luisa, what was your favorite ice cream as a kid? Because I had a really specific flavor.
As a kid, it was probably cookie dough or cookies and cream, I think. They're still pretty much up there for me.
Very solid. For Midwestern folks, my favorite ice cream flavor is Blue Moon. No, it does not taste like beer. Yeah, it is not beer. It is Fruity Tooty or the indescribable flavor plus gummy bears.
Yes. Oh my God, the amount of times people ordered that. Priceless.
It's a classic for a reason. Andy, how about you?
Ice cream or food?
Well,
or both?
All of it. Let's do it all.
All right. Ice cream, early on, I developed a taste for, I think it's butter brickle. It's like little bits of toffee. And I don't even know if it was a common flavor.
It sounds like an old man's ice cream.
Dude, I could fill a book
like
with all
pecan.
the old man stuff that I like. But yeah, butter pecan, like that category. I could just tell you about, like, if you ever want to walk down the candy aisle of a Walgreens with me, I'll pick out my favorites and you'll never have heard of them because, in defiance of God, they still exist, but a lot of them are just all old people candy. Like I like Boston baked bean. I like Brock's maple nut goodies, which would just destroy your teeth. And also, I had a friend that I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and there was a Baskin Robbins downtown that we could walk to. So the summer, I remember we'd walk there, and we were like in middle school, and we heard a rumor that the daiquiri ice cream had alcohol in it. And because we didn't have access to alcohol, but we wanted to try alcohol, we said, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll order a Matterhorn of daiquiri ice cream and see if we get a buzz. And so a Matterhorn was like 7 scoops of ice cream. And so my friend and I split it, and we were just basically curled up on the floor with ice cream headaches from trying to hammer through 7 scoops of daiquiri ice cream. And we did not get a buzz. We just got heartache from it.
That sounds terrible.
Well, one,
But
Andy, you're
Worst
not
hangover.
old. Yeah, I was going to say you had a sugar hangover and you learned that alcohol mostly gets cooked off in a cooking process.
I didn't learn anything, but I have learned in my wisdom and experience, I have now learned these things. But my first food experience that I really remember, there were two, is, again, growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, my parents loved this little Chinese restaurant in the downtown of where we lived. And we'd go there as a family, often on Sunday evenings. And it was Americanized Chinese food. It was like sweet and sour chicken and egg foo young and stuff like that. But it was just super comforting. You'd see Christmas movies where families would like end up at a Chinese restaurant for Christmas. And I'm like, that's the culture I want to be part of, because I love Chinese food. And we would just eat mountains of it. And then the other one is, I remember there was a time, it was my birthday and I was a kid, and there was a nice restaurant in town that had a reputation for ribs. And I remember not feeling well the whole day, but it was my birthday, and it was decided as a family we were going to go to this restaurant. And I went there, and I was just basically curled up in the corner of the booth, not interested in food at all. But then they brought the ribs out, and my mom was just like, try one of the ribs. And I bit into one, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't feel sick. I was just starving all day. And I just destroyed like 2 full racks of ribs as a tiny child. And that was like one of the first transformative experiences I had with food. And that same restaurant got blown up by the outfit, and the owner got blown up in his car outside. What? And when I heard about it, everybody, it's like, that's horrible. I'm like, yeah, now where are we going to get ribs? But that was it.
What do you mean
Oh my God.
What do you mean blown up?
Yeah, they had an unsavory partnership with somebody and they hadn't met their end of the bargain. So, yeah.
That's the real dirt I want to know.
Wait, so it physically exploded?
Physically exploded.
I thought you were going to say like, oh, they got so popular, they exploded.
Typically, when I used to go to a restaurant as an 8-year-old, yes, they would explode with popularity. But in this case, it was organized crime exacting revenge on someone that hadn't held up their end of the deal. And so.
Okay, we got into the dirt really quickly, and it's Chicago mob shit, and that's what we all
Andy has a lot of stories like that. Yeah.
I do.
Well, let's take things forward just a touch from there. I mean, Luisa, you were at the ice cream shop. Andy, you also started your career, not quite knowing where, but what were each of your careers like? Some of those steps that you can tell us about before starting your own company. And did either of you touch hospitality during that time period and food? What really led you to today?
Well, in terms of the entrepreneurial journey, I always find Luisa's journey to be way more interesting than mine. So I'll just list off all the jobs I had as a kid. So I had a paper route. I was a fry cook. I was a dishwasher. I got fired as a dishwasher because I was bad at it. I was also in a band at the time and used to stay out late. And I was told hygiene was part of the equation when I got terminated. I taught English in Japan. I came back. I was editor of a newspaper for about a summer, and I never got paid. And then I had to reinvent myself because I had to work my way up through. Because, like, if you've taught English in Japan and you have a degree in African studies, you're pretty much unemployable in this country. And so I started as a bookseller at Barnes & Noble. I took over management of one of the cafes in a Barnes & Noble, fell in love with coffee, worked for another coffee brand, opened coffee shops for a couple of years. And I took about a 12-year detour through technology. And then I came back to hospitality as the director of IT for Intelligentsia Coffee in Chicago. So I did that for about 5 years. And then I found out I could make less money and work harder by working with Luisa. And so I quit that job.
Yes. The entrepreneurial life. Yeah, so I started my entrepreneurial journey very young age, 11 years old. Little me selling art pieces in toy stores and art galleries and some Whole Foods locations. So I did not have a job in hospitality or tech right away. I did that for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. But along the way, I was also working at a couple other small businesses. So like I mentioned, my first real job was at an ice cream shop that I actually painted the mural in. So I, just loved ice cream so much. I wanted to live there. I was really interested in the way that that business was run because it was a small business. It was a mom and pop shop. And I basically became a manager at like age 15 or whenever I was working there because they just needed help. And I knew a couple things about how to keep things organized. And so they let me be a manager there. And it was probably around that time that I realized I wanted to go to school for business because I wanted to help businesses like that be able to succeed because I knew they were really struggling and there was a lot of things they could have done better, but I didn't really have the business mindset that I wanted to be able to provide. So I went to DePaul in Chicago for entrepreneurship. And then shortly thereafter is when I ran into Andy, who was starting an IT consulting business focused on brick and mortar retail. And so my first experience working with restaurants and operators was that business. And so we did all sorts of projects like setting up new point of sale systems, building websites, updating people's menus. And I just loved working with those places because they were all places that I'd known and loved in Chicago, like really big, popular spots. So it was exciting to get to work with those businesses and see behind the scenes.
That's really cool. So your origin stories, whether you realize it or not, really set you up to what science is today. Andy, what inspired you to start that IT consulting business for brick and mortar and specifically folks in food and bev, and how you and Luisa met through that?
I have some kind of majorly annoying dad characteristics where I can't help but ask questions when I'm at a restaurant or in a store. I want to know how things work. And part of that is I want to know how the humans are doing. I really can't resist. I can't walk past a person on the street if they seem like they're dealing with a challenge. And I'm super emotional too. Like ask people if they're okay. Ask people how I can do something to improve their situation. And it's just a habit for me. I could be just as selfish and curmudgeon-y as anybody, but I wake up with the drive to I want to connect with people. I want to solve their problems. And it seems easiest for me to do that in an environment where I'm comfortable and I feel like I have knowledge to share and ideas about how to move forward. And technology is one of those. I'm not a brilliant technologist. I'm one of the least technical people on our team, but I've been graced with the opportunity to spend a lot of time around a lot of networking hardware and point of sale equipment and understand what works on the back end. And at the end of the day, it is all about how do these components speak to each other? It is just a mirror of the world that we want, which is how can we facilitate connectivity between ourselves and the human across the room? Every chance you get to meet a human being is an opportunity to win for both of you. And it's the same thing that we see in the dining room when you're a server or on the other side of the counter and you're dealing with a line of customers. 100 things are going to go wrong, but 350 customers are going to come through your coffee shop that day, and that's 350 opportunities to win. Even if someone serves them the wrong drink, even if they spill, even if they're mad because you're out of oat milk, you still have the opportunity to make that experience positive through just your humanity. And so I think that's representative of one of the kind of grand paradoxes of what we do. We're called science. A lot of this is based in the faith in humanity, faith in our ability to connect with people and get over the line when there are challenges. But it certainly works a lot better when we've built a platform that is essentially an expert system that is staffed with teams with deep domain expertise and AI that's trained by real human experience on how to solve the most common issues and make those resolutions occur more quickly so that human being can get back to connecting with the human on the other side of the counter and not worrying about if the printer's offline or the Wi-Fi's not working.
So really, the ultimate mission for your team and for Science on Call is to put a little bit of humanity back into technology.
I think that has to be part and parcel of what we and many other companies are trying to build are systems that leverage all the advancements in AI, whether it's conversational AI or automation. If we're not adding humanity into that equation, then we're failing. We're failing ourselves. We're failing our customers.
So tell us about the aha moment. Why Science on Call? What was that moment that you said you recognized a need and you decided to get started on this and get together on this? And let listeners know too, in a few words, what exactly is the software and the service that you're providing?
Yeah, our aha moments may be different. And so I'll give you mine as quickly as I can, and then I'll get out of the way. So Science on Call is a holistic support platform for restaurants, leveraging all of the data that we've collected about everything that breaks inside of a restaurant, whether it's technology or not. Sometimes it's supply chain. Sometimes it's people don't know their own company's policies. Sometimes it's people don't know what to do when a certain piece of equipment breaks, whether it's a deep fryer or an oven or something like that. And so by interacting with restaurant teams over the years, we have landed on a methodology that allows us to quickly ingest all of the information about how to make a restaurant run properly. And that starts with the tech stack in many instances. And then when customers reach out to us and they can use any channel they want, text, email, fill out a form, we're able to leverage all the data we've collected, our team's domain expertise, because we recruit from hospitality. And then we pair that with the power of conversational AI and automation to either deliver that answer instantly or solve that problem through automation instantly. So we're protecting revenue, we're reducing friction for the team in the restaurant so they can focus on the guests and they can focus on the food. My aha moment, though, was very different. 5 years ago, I had a tool bag, and all the time, I'd get that call at Friday night at 11 o'clock from the big pizza place, a Burger King, a sushi restaurant, saying, our printer's down and we are dead in the water because we don't know what to make in the kitchen because we're not getting chits. They're not printing out. And so, back when it was just Luisa and myself, I was the on-site guy. That was what I brought to the table. So I'd rush out there Friday night, in the middle of busy dinner service, and I'd inevitably figure out the problem pretty quickly. And once in a while, you get cheers from the team behind the counter when their problem gets fixed. Once in a while, you walk somebody through solving something on the phone, and you hear this combination of relief in their voice. You hear a lump in their throat because they're so grateful. You can't replace that. There's no other experience you can have in the workplace that is an improvement upon that experience.
Wow. Luisa, how about you?
I don't know if I could top that, but I definitely think my aha moment was similar in understanding what the problem was that the operators were facing, because I myself had been in those situations where something stops working and you're just like, what do I do? This is the worst thing that could happen right now. And being the person behind the counter at several different businesses and being the only person behind the counter, a lot of times you just have to figure it out. You have no choice but to just plug some things in or click some buttons and make it work. And so knowing that the people I would be helping were in those situations, it was a really powerful feeling to support them in those situations because we face them ourselves. I probably don't miss answering and driving out to fix things at this point in time, but I am super, super grateful that we've built a culture around people who want to help and be helpful. And also the AI that we're building as well has that built-in empathy because it's built on the actual human effort that our people are putting in. Maybe you're talking to a bot at some point in time, but it's built on real people's conversations that are part of our team, and they're continuing to respond to urgent requests, whether it's something we've dealt with or not. That's why we have people available on the sidelines when the tech isn't working, because we've all talked to a bot at some point and they don't always get it right. So you do need a human in the loop. And we are very bullish on keeping that part of our thesis because, it's always changing. Tech's always changing. The tools that people are using, the way that people are interacting with the technology is changing. And so we've had a lot of aha moments, I think, over the years, realizing oh, a new generation of people are behind the counters. They don't want to go flip through an employee manual. They probably don't even want to pick up the phone and make a call because that's just not what they're used to. They want to text and they want to send an email and get the answer immediately.
Yeah. I love these parts of your story so much because it represents when a startup does need to happen. You've experienced the problems personally, or people in the space who have these explicit problems. You understand that there is a way to fix them, and you're doing it in a way that, at the end of the day, despite, the scary terrain of AI that we all continue to learn about, you're trying to do it with as much empathy, which is really at the core of hospitality as well. So it's truly the perfect fit. And I think our listeners, whether they've worked in a restaurant or whether they've been in food and bev or hospitality on any level, I think they can appreciate this because they're the folks on the other end waiting to have an amazing meal or move quickly so they can grab a bite, and understanding that you guys are here to help fix those problems means the world. Tell me a little bit more about how you have built relationships with those restaurants, whether they're chains, whether they're independent chefs, and what their feedback has been like over time since you got started. You were founded in 2020, correct? What a time. What a time to enter hospitality and in the food tech space.
It was the best time. It was when we were needed the most, And again, like Luisa and my journey actually started at the end of 2014 when we started our first company. And we are very much like that boutique IT consultancy, just, pounding the pavement, knocking on doors, looking for projects, being done with them, moving on to the next thing. Our culture is built on a pattern and tradition of sacrifice. So Luisa kind of fearlessly charged into this first business with me when she had just graduated from college. She could have done anything, But we made it work for a couple of years where it was like she had side hustles. I did as much as I could to kind of like carve out work to keep her busy and engaged. But it was like 2018 and we were starting to feel it. We were getting really busy. I was feeling a little spread thin. And I kind of begged. I'm like, listen, I know I'm the one that kind of created a part-time job that forced you to have side hustles. But right now, this part-time job is starting to turn into a bigger job. If there's any way you could consider stepping away from those and just focusing on this and help me build here, which she did selflessly. And so we made the decision that we'd put her on salary, and there was a lot less money to go around between the two of us when we had two people on salary all of a sudden. But within a month of that, we closed at our biggest hospitality customer. And we're like, hey, every time we make a big move like this, every time we kind of white knuckle it through a challenge and just decide to do the right thing, there's always a payoff. And same thing happened in 2019. I was spread totally thin. I was kind of at my wit's end because there were a lot of things we had to do that I was very bad at, but I hadn't created enough space for Luisa to say like, listen, hold on, I got this, because Luisa's a lot better at certain aspects of our business than I'll ever be. And so we came to the conclusion that we had to fire all of our non-restaurant customers in the fall of 2019 so that we wouldn't be spread so thin and we could focus on doing what we were really good at, which is like being those kind of Friday night heroes, walking in the door, solving all the problems, getting those cheers from the TV on the counter, literally and figuratively. And as soon as I hung up, metaphorically speaking, as soon as I hung up with the last non-restaurant customer and said, we're no longer a good fit for you, I'm going to help you find your next resource, but we're going to focus on restaurants, we were actually accepted into the Food Foundry Accelerator program run by Gordon Food Service in Chicago. And that changed who we are forever. That was our first institutional check. We became a bona fide startup overnight with the idea that what we were doing could be streamlined and made very scalable and deliver an impact to thousands upon thousands of restaurants. And that's what we set out to do. The problem is we did that in the beginning of 2020 when we launched Science on Call. Luisa and I were both sitting in a conference room around a table with about 9 other restaurant tech founders on Thursday afternoon. I think it was March 13th. And all of a sudden I'm looking around, everybody's on their phones. I think they're on Twitter. I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm like, oh, the industry that we all just dedicated ourselves to serving is now closing down. There had to be 10 minutes that day where we're wondering, like, are we going to survive this? can this even be a viable industry anymore? Has everything changed? And of course, back then, a lot of us believed like, oh, this is going to be a horrible 2 weeks while we sort through this pandemic. But in fact, it was a real thing. And what we found was the things that we were doing to help restaurants, which is, we were kind of like the janitors of the digital revolution. We were the ones that made things work. We cleaned up the messes between the third-party ordering and the point of sale and all the other stuff that was going on. We grew out of the pandemic. We found that we had never been more important than we were at that moment, because restaurants were going from 10% off-premise ordering or like online ordering, everything outside of the restaurant, to 100% overnight. And a lot of them were unprepared. We saved the day for a lot of those.
Wow. And even though it was such a horrible time 5 years ago, cannot believe it's been 5 years, you really were in the right place at the right time, which is also just this other key moment of starting a business, whether it is a tech startup or something brick and mortar, something, maybe in the more traditional sense. So talk a little bit more, maybe Luisa, you can answer this, about how Science on Call has grown over the last 5 years, whether that's the product, what have you figured out that you need to provide for folks and those features, along with your team. What other learnings have you guys had? And maybe some of those customers that you can shout out that all of us love to eat at.
Yeah, definitely. It has been quite an evolution over the last 5 years. I think the mission is still very much the same. The customers that we're working with have grown quite a bit. And so now our focus is very much on growing brands. So maybe they have 12 or 15 locations now, but they're expanding to 100, 200, 500. They have this big vision of something that they can replicate over and over. And what we've built is a continuity platform that allows them to grow and scale much easier than they could by hiring a single IT person who has to answer calls on nights and weekends for 80 different locations. And we've even hired from those brands as well, because they realize that the single IT person concept doesn't really scale. And so sometimes they're in a position where they're like, well, we can either hire 2 or 3 more people like that, or we can switch over to Science on Call and empower our one IT person to do a lot more and focus on innovation and strategy and growth. And so our goal is not to replace those jobs necessarily. It's to create more opportunities for them to focus on what they're good at. Most of them do not want to be answering calls on nights and weekends about a printer not working or resetting someone's password, and they want to grow within those companies. So the product that we're offering is a little bit more geared towards those types of brands at this point. Typically, an independent operator doesn't have an IT person. It's usually the owner or somebody's nephew that's handling a lot of those requests. And that kind of works for them at that stage. They're not quite ready to commit to all these different software solutions. And eventually, when they decide, oh, we want to open more locations and scale, that's when it becomes an idea in their head, like, hey, we need something that can help us operate when we're not answering the phones as owners and operators. So, Andy, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I would say that, yeah, there's definitely been an evolution from, we used to work with a lot of single unit operators, and we delivered a lot of value to those single unit operators. But over time, what we found is we're the best fit and we're delivering the most impact when you have that larger organization, but you still want to maintain a lean team. And one person can't do it all for a 20 or 30 unit chicken sandwich concept, but they can if they've got our platform in place, because our platform effectively addresses about 85% of the issues that come through. Some of those are weird ones. Some of those require escalation. Some of those cannot be automated, and it's great to have a human IT stakeholder internally at an organization like that who can own the vision and, like Luisa said, be in charge of innovation, strategy, and growth.
Yeah, and I would say you also asked about our team and how that has changed over time as well. Andy and I being a 2-person fix-it shop to now, I think we're at about 30 people in total on our team, which is absolutely crazy. But a majority of those people are focused on building out the documentation, making sure that when a request comes in, if AI is able to handle that, great. If not, they're there to either solve the problem or document it so that next time it happens, the AI can solve it and solve it quickly. And we've definitely evolved the way that we handle tickets because of the breadth of experience our team has. I knew how to solve some things on websites and menus, and Andy knew how to solve a couple things inside the restaurant. But now there's probably no issue that our team can't handle because of the amount of experience collectively that we've built across our team.
I'm such a proud friend hearing this. I mean, you're scaling as your customers are scaling, and your team is being built out in a way where, again, your skill sets complement each other, and you're able to take the product and, again, the service, because you really are software as a service in that true sense. You're not just, hey, here you go. Good luck. Thanks for the contract. So let's say, again, listeners are listening in who, again, are just customers within this space. Let's say favorite chicken shop customer here. I go to my favorite chicken shop in Columbus or in Chicago or anywhere else in the country, and I'm ordering at the counter. What can I really thank science for in that moment that I'm not really processing, oh, X software is behind the moment I'm having right now?
I would say if they are not telling you they're out of a certain ingredient, or if they are not telling you, I'm sorry, it's going to be about 10 minutes because we just had a problem with our kitchen display, and so the team's stacked up or something like that. If you're not experiencing those kinds of responses from the team behind the counter, chances are you can thank us for it, because we are a partner in that continuity and that stability. But we should be a silo partner. It should really be about the things that you don't hear, the things that you don't experience. If you're experiencing technology in a restaurant, short of maybe ordering from your telephone or something like that, if you're having an experience that you remember, chances are there's too much technology there. We have to remind ourselves that this is a human business. We acquire customers through relationships, not spray and pray, having a bunch of SDRs call a bunch of people and say, do you want our software or not? This is a relationship business, and that's what hospitality is. It's based on that interaction. It needs to be unique. And the less technology you can have between you and that person on the other side of the counter, the better. And so if you're not thinking about technology, chances are we're doing our best work.
I love how you put that too, that if you can tell, there's too much technology involved. And anyone who is within food and bev and the hospitality industry, as well as even just a customer of your favorite restaurants who do any sort of takeout or have rewards on site, we all know there are so many platforms. None of them connect to each other. I've got rewards here. I use 3 different types of delivery services. I've got this many reservation platforms because no one is in one spot. So how are you approaching that challenge, and how are you going to continue to approach that challenge of so many platforms and put this into a more holistic solution for everyone involved?
Luisa?
Yeah, I think it's always been on our mind that the tech stack is constantly evolving, and we've seen it over 5 years, from people transitioning to cloud-based point of sale and now consolidating to 1 or 2 specific point of sale systems that I won't name, as well as specific third-party order delivery platforms or first-party ordering platforms. And so the consolidation of the tech stack is coming. We do see it as enabling restaurants to have less things to deal with, but they do still need everything to run smoothly. And the staff in the restaurant typically did not go to school for IT or have been in a job where they're constantly on a computer. And so we need to always think about that when we're creating technology. And a lot of times the technologies that they're using were built by someone who maybe didn't work in a restaurant. And they're like, yeah, why can't they just go on the computer and log into 5 platforms and then make a change on that? Like, that's so easy, but it's not. If you're in a restaurant, you're putting out fires literally and dealing with customers, and you can't just go hide in the back room on a computer. And so that will always be important to us, is the way that our customers are interacting with our technology. It's like Andy said, you shouldn't see the technology. It should be super seamless and easy to use. And that's why we've built our platform as essentially an SMS-based platform. You can text any question and get an answer via text. You don't have to log into some app or reset your password on there. You can literally text us and say, I need to reset my password, and we'll take care of that for you, because that is the future of work for a lot of people in the younger generation too. They're also used to using like Siri and saying, hey, Siri, can you pause online ordering? Like, that's the future that we see. And we want customers to be able to access a platform without having to learn how to use it, essentially.
What other trends are you seeing within the restaurant and food tech space? I mean, we hear the word AI all the time. This podcast is being recorded and edited on a software that uses AI. So you all talked about how you're training your AI to be extremely empathetic. It has that human touch. Also, because there is a human or more than one human watching it. How do you see the future of this all playing out, and any other trends that you see?
We've built a robot that has a warm red beating heart inside. That's the empathy that's been instilled in our models by remaining focused on that human interaction and remaining focused on having human managers for all the digital workers that we've built. That the little robots that do things like change a password or change a menu item or change store hours, things like that, that can all be done robotically. But again, that human heart has to be there. I think one of the most important trends is something that Luisa mentioned, which is the consolidation of the tech stack. And I'm going to shout out one person who I just think is one of the most fantastic humans in hospitality, is Sam Stanovich, who's the senior VP of Big Chicken. And Sam comes from a lifetime of hospitality. He is a Chicago guy, and he understands the stuff that really makes people want to go to a restaurant. It's not to pick up their order. It's that interaction. On the same token, our platform only gets better when we listen to people. And Sam is one of those people that we invite to the table with us when we gather our leadership team and say, let's talk about what we're building. Let's get feedback from a bona fide operator that everybody respects and wishes that they're building something that met that person's standards. And one thing that I remember Sam saying the last time he was hanging out with us was just like, operators do not want to be hit with another SaaS fee. All right. It's like the ordering platform, the marketing platform, the inventory device, like all that. Everything is costing restaurants $200 a month times the number of restaurants they have. There are a lot of restaurants that are investing $2,500 a month in their tech stack just through SaaS fees. Well, guess what? We are a platform. This is built on software. We do charge a fee for it, not entirely different than that. But because we retain that humanity, people don't look at us as a SaaS fee. They look at it as like, well, that's just what we pay for our partner in Science on Call. We sit in the middle of the tech stack. So fortunately for us, a lot of people don't look at us as a SaaS fee. They look at us as a team, despite the fact that robots are doing a lot of the work right now. But on the AI side, I mean, frankly, I think a lot of AI is just horse shit at this point. It's like people have figured out, say, oh, I can use AI to like build a marketing campaign and it's going to create all the photographs that we're going to post in an ad. And it's like all of a sudden you have hands with 9 fingers or pizza that has like pineapple still in the can on it. Like, you're getting it wrong. We might need to slow down with some of these applications of AI.
I agree.
There are some really interesting ways of using AI to analyze data. You pull the sales data, you pull the labor data, you look at the weather and you say, this is what's going to happen tomorrow. And a lot of times it's pretty accurate. But the problem is we've been mired in this era of actionable insights. And a lot of restaurant operators are like, could you just keep the actionable insights and just give us the action? Like, just do it for us. And like, we are of that stripe. We are of like, oh, you want us to remove mushrooms from all of your online menus because you ran out of mushrooms? We can do that. We can do it through automation. And we do it in like 10 seconds so you can get back to focusing on the guest. That's the practical application of AI trained by humans, managed by humans, is what I think is useful right now. But it's going to go way past that. There is going to be an era where it's not going to be actionable insights. It's going to be more action from these platforms. And that's when it gets really exciting.
You guys really walk the walk, and I'm sure it helps you in a lot of ways. There's a startup term called feature creeping, and it's this thing where you think, well, I'll just add everything that sounds cool right now. But if the customer doesn't really want it, then you've just wasted time and resources and money. And you go, well, maybe we should have talked to people. So I love that it keeps just coming back to this sense of connecting with others, understanding others. And as you said, Andy, asking that question, how are you today? What can I do to help you today? And it's this whole level of customer service that isn't someone who doesn't really want to do it, doesn't really want to be on the other line. So it makes me very happy to hear. Question for either of you. Talk to me and the listeners a little bit more about the biggest challenges that you've faced building in the restaurant and food tech space, especially you're building in the Midwest, even though you're available nationwide, and also other challenges and moments that you're gearing up to fight for, given the current climate, given that a lot of things are changing right now for especially folks within hospitality and food and bev and even tech. There's a lot that we don't know what's coming our way. So would love to hear, specific to Science on Call, what it's been like for you all building in this space, as well as how you're looking to put some armor on and keep the fight on.
Yeah, I think building a restaurant tech company is definitely something that certain investors shy away from, because historically restaurants have high turnover, whether it's the staff or they're not in business very long. And so that scares a lot of investors away. But it is a very large market. There are 850,000 of them in the US alone, and they're all using technology. So the market for us is pretty big. And the fact that we see basically any restaurant that has internet and cash register can use us, because they need that continuity. They need to know that their technology is up and running. And so for us, it's been a no-brainer, but for raising money, it definitely has been difficult at times. But we've found really great partners who understand the vision is to go beyond IT, but also beyond restaurants, to go into more retail, because convenience stores are turning into restaurants, retail stores are turning into restaurants. And there's so many different kinds of businesses out there. And so we see the market as pretty huge. But regardless of what you're building, investors will be skeptical, and they want to know that you can make this into a really, really big business. Another thing that's always been difficult for us is, margins, the boring stuff that no one really likes to talk about running a business, is that you need to spend money to make money, but sometimes the money you're making isn't quite as much as what you're spending early on as a startup. That's the world that we live in, is you have to actually spend more money than you're making for a while. And the end result needs to be that you have something that could scale to support tens of hundreds of thousands of restaurants. And so we're still kind of at that point where we're starting to see the automations and the AI start to help us increase those margins. We're not getting rid of any of the people on our team. We're empowering them to do the stuff that we expect humans to be helpful with, and let the AI do all of the boring stuff, like removing items from menus and pausing store hours, and, having that initial outreach, asking questions, things that all of us are engaging with chatbots or AI in some way, shape, or form. It's not unusual to us, but we still want to make sure that we have humans to balance that out. So finding investors that understand that AI is not just about 90% plus margins and building software, it's about the people behind it and whether that's something that restaurants actually want. And it is something that restaurants want. When we have customer calls, they're super grateful that we have a team behind us to handle some of that stuff. So that's what makes us a holistic platform.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would tack onto that only because I think I felt like I picked up a tone about the climate.
Yes.
Restaurants are increasingly challenging. Restaurants are challenging because humans are expensive, and also consumers are cheap. Consumers like to post their receipts from the meal they bought at McDonald's and complain about it on LinkedIn. Consumers like to complain about an auto gratuity, even though they don't know whether or not that person actually has healthcare insurance and stuff like that. so many people would deny restaurant employees the basics of humanity that you need to thrive in order to have that cheese sandwich. But I'll say this, the only reason that you can get a cheeseburger and a Coke for $12 at some places right now is because 70% of the team behind the counter and in the back of house have already braved the idea that they had to take a different route to work because they were afraid of an ICE raid. Yeah. They're struggling with communicating with each other in English, even though they may come from a country where Spanish or another language was their native language. Yeah. And the fact that they are not seeing empathy from the current environment is really scary for restaurants. Because guess what? If you don't learn to accommodate the hardest working people that pay gazillions of dollars in taxes in this country, just so they can serve you a cheap cheeseburger, if you can't accommodate them that far, guess what happens when they leave? All right? You're not going to find a teenager from the suburbs to take that job. So your costs are going to go up. Your satisfaction is going to go down. And you're going to be threatening even more the stability of an industry, which is the absolute bedrock of our society. Restaurants employ and hospitality employ like 15 million people in this country. And if we are not building solutions, and if we are not building on ideas based on empathy, based on dignity, then we just lose as a society. All right. I'll see you at 7-Eleven because I like to get a slice of pizza there too. But that is going to be the height of hospitality in this country if we don't think really hard about being more accommodating to the hardest working people in this country.
Amen.
Amen.
Andy and Luisa, thank you. Like, sometimes it's tough to answer these questions, but whether it's March 2025 or March 2020, there are always going to be challenges. Maybe they're different, maybe they're similar, that face us all. And I appreciate that we keep coming back to your hearts, the heart of your business. What is the heart of hospitality as well? Is us just caring about each other and loving each other. And that's so much of what food does. It helps us really connect with other people that maybe we don't speak the same language or come from the same places. But, you know, the table is where we all get together. So thank you and amen again. Snaps for that.
Love that.
Thank you for bringing us to the table.
Thank you. Thank you for being at my table too. So let's talk about those moments. I mean, you're both co-founders of a growing business. You have team members. To continue the marathon, this is not a sprint. You got to, as the Brits say, keep calm and carry on somehow. So what's a little bit of advice that, as we wrap up here, that you can share with anyone who is looking to start their own business, whether it's within tech or anything else that they're excited to share with the world?
My quick one, I think Luisa will have better answers on this, but my quick one would be like, it's going to be hard, but you're the right person to do it. So don't doubt yourself.
I love that. Yeah, I would say the same about just getting out there and be who you want to be. Don't be what somebody's telling you to be. I was finishing college, like Andy said, and probably should have gone to go work for Google or Apple or whatever. But I was so excited about getting to do something that felt right for me, and it's paid off. So I'm glad that I made that decision. So make sure you surround yourself with smarter, better people who can do things that you're not good at, and you'll go far.
I'm going to tack onto that only because it's a really good point, is you cannot do this without mentorship. But don't subscribe to an outdated idea of what mentorship is. It is not necessarily an older person that looks like you that achieves specific milestones that you want to achieve. Your mentors are all around you. And I use this as an example all the time. Luisa has been a mentor to me for 10 years. I have had the absolute joy of working alongside her for 10 years. And I've always known that there were things that she was always going to be better at. And so when I need help, I have somebody I can go to help. And it doesn't need to be an older person. It doesn't need to be a specific kind of person. Understand that there are people around you who are going to be better at certain things that you want to achieve. And you only win when you learn to ask. And that's been like the greatest lesson I've learned in business. And I learned it from Luisa, is that when I ask and when I need help, I get it, and it solves a lot of problems.
Right back at you, Andy. 10 years strong. Here we are.
Such a strong relationship and such very good pieces of advice. Are you guys ready for the best and hardest question of the day?
Please.
So,
Yes.
to preface this, so we ask this question each podcast episode because the perfect bite is not only a little bit of a perfect bite of my career to date, being an entrepreneur myself and working with founders in food and bev, but it's also the sense that everyone has their own perfect bite, whether it's a memory or a dish or this moment that you tasted something and it will never leave you. So each of you has to answer, what is your perfect bite?
Plain cheese pizza at Vito and Nick's at the bar, accompanied by an old style, accompanied by a cash only sign, accompanied by a server that could care less if you live or die, but they are delivering the most incredible pizza on the face of the earth. It is sublime in its simplicity and its perfection.
I kind of knew you were going to say that. Mine is definitely a taco off of the streets in my dad's hometown in Mexico. There's literally a place on a busy road with, just a grill. It's the most simple thing. Steak taco with onions, cilantro, and lime, just on a little paper plate. It's all you need.
It's all you need.
It's everything.
I love that both of you had what on the outside could look extremely simple, but is really special and complex in the sense of right place, right time. And just like your journey. It really is. Andy and Luisa, this has been awesome. Can you please let listeners know where they can find you and Science on Call? So the website as well as social accounts.
We're on scienceoncall.com and we're on, I guess, Instagram and LinkedIn, probably the two most popular channels we're using. And then I'm on LinkedIn, just my name. You can find me there. I don't use a lot of other social media.
Yeah, I'm definitely the only Andy Freivogel on LinkedIn so far.
Excellent. I can't wait for people to connect with you and keep following along the journey. Thank you, guys. This has been fantastic. Thanks again for joining me today. And everyone, this was Luisa Castellanos and Andy Freivogel's Perfect Bite.
Thanks for tuning in to The Perfect Bite today. You can listen to future episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Thanks in advance for subscribing, rating, and reviewing. You can follow The Perfect Bite on social media at Perfect Bite Pod. Now go get something good to eat.